Good afternoon, students, and welcome to our ICT 9 third quarter week 1 discussion. In this discussion, may you listen carefully so that you will understand the lesson easily. And if ever you still want to view this video, you still can access this on the link below, which is the LCMS at .gaitf.com. On this quarter, we will be discussing first the lesson 3, which is to conduct tests on the installed computer system. So on the first week of the third quarter, we will be talking about testing installed equipment or devices, components. And before going through the topic, let us first identify our objectives. So at the end of the lesson, you should be able to first, or A, follow OHS policies and procedures in conducting tests. B, check circuits and systems being isolated using specified testing procedures. C, test devices, systems, and or installation to determine its conformity with the requirements. D, undertake final inspections on the installed devices, systems to ensure conformity with the requirements. E, accomplish technical reports on the tests conducted, and F, follow procedures in forwarding documentation to appropriate personnel and or authorities on the test conducted. As computer technician, you will need a good understanding of the health and safety regulations from early on in your career, so that you understand the good practices demanded by law. In particular, you need to first, report any accidents. Second, take reasonable care of your own health and safety when moving heavy equipment. Third, not cause any electrical hazards, and make sure that workstation meet safety requirements. So that is what you are going to remember when you are going to or work as a technician. Now let's talk about the use of diagnostic tools in testing installed hardware components and other peripherals. So what is diagnostic tools? Diagnostic tools are used to test and diagnose equipment. So the word there is to test and diagnose. So in every equipment there are diagnostic tools which are used. So diagnostic tools include the following. So we have the Loopback Adapter, digital multimeter, and toner probe. So these are diagnostic tools. Okay, let's talk about digital multimeter. So digital multimeter is a device that can take many types of measurements. It tests the integrity of circuits and the quality of electricity in computer components. So a digital multimeter displays the information on an LCD or LED. Next is a loopback adapter. So what is a loopback adapter? So loopback adapter is also called a loopback plug. It tests the basic functionality of computer ports, and the adapter is specific to the port that you want to test. And now for the toner probe. So toner probe is a two-part tool. The toner part is connected to a cable at one end using specific adapters such as an RJ45, coaxial, or metal clips. The toner generates a tone that travels the length of the cable. The probe part traces the cable, and when the probe is in near proximity to the cable to which the toner is attached, the tone can be heard through a speaker in the probe. Now let's talk about software tools. So like hardware tools, there are a variety of software tools that can be used to help technicians pinpoint and troubleshoot problems. So many of these tools are free and several come with the Windows operating system. So one of the example of a software tools is the management tools. So software tools help diagnose computer and and network problems and determine which computer device is not functioning correctly. So a technician must be able to use a range of software tools to diagnose problems, maintain hardware, and protect the data stored on a computer. So you must be able to identify which software to use in different situations. So these management tools help detect and correct disk errors, prepare a disk for data storage, and remove unwanted files. Okay, so these are the following disk management tools. So first we have the fdisk. So it is a command line tool that creates and deletes partitions on a hard drive. So the fdisk tool is not available in Windows XP, Vista, or 7. It has been replaced with the disk management tool. Then another, we have disk management tool. So this initializes disk, creates partitions, and formats partitions. Then also we have format, which prepares a hard drive to store information. Then also we have scan disk or check disk. So this scan disk or check disk checks the integrity of files and folders on a hard drive by scanning the file system. So these tools might also check the disk surface for physical errors. Then we have the defrag. So defrag optimizes space on a hard drive to allow faster access to programs and data. Then another, we have disk cleanup. So this cleanup clears a space on a hard drive by searching for files that can be safely deleted. Then last one, we have the system file checker or SFC. It is a command line tool that scans the operating system's critical files and replaces files that are corrupted. So those are some disk management tools that you can use for solving your computer problems. Okay, now let's talk about test procedures. So a test procedure is a set of steps to guide you through what needs to be done to thoroughly test the installations. It is designed to help you work more effectively and to make sure you test everything that needs testing. Okay, so test procedures are created in-house and could include these steps. So first, gathering test information. The first step is to run the test required by the procedure and find out what happens. You should record all the results of your test in a log so that you know which pass and which fail, thereby requiring further action. Then second, validating the test information. So the next step is to check the data you gathered from the test to make sure it is correct. This is usually done by running the tests again. Then third, responding to test information. So this step is important because you need to be able to recognize when a test shows problems or is successful. So like for example, if ping is used to test a network connection, then request timeout shows the test was not successful. Then last of the test procedures is the checking specification. So this is the final step, is an important end to testing. So you need to check the specification for the installation to make sure that it has been met. So for example, if a user requested an upgrade to make their display run at 1920 times 1200, then the ICT professional should check that the graphics card and screen can do this. Now let's talk about external visual inspection. So the external visual inspection consists of a quick inspection of the exterior of the computer, the monitor, the keyboard, any peripherals, and cables. So while performing the visual inspection, make any necessary corrections. To perform the external visual inspection, perform the following steps. So first, turn off the computer, the monitor, and all peripherals. Then second, verify that all power cables are properly connected to the computer, the monitor and peripherals, and their power sources. Third, verify that the keyboard and mouse interface cables are firmly attached to the proper connectors on the back of the computer. For a PS2 compatible mouse, the keyboard and mouse interface cable connectors are identical except for their labels. For a serial mouse, the mouse interface cable must be firmly attached to one of the serial port connectors, and its captive screws must be secure enough to ensure a firm connection. Then the next step is to verify that network cables, if present, are properly attached. Then next, verify that any devices attached to the serial and parallel port connectors are properly connected. Each of the serial and parallel port interface cables must be firmly attached to an appropriate connector on the back of the computer, as well as to the interface connector on the device. The captive screws that secure these connectors at each end of the interface cable must be secure enough to ensure a firm connection. Then next, verify that the video interface cable is firmly attached to the video connector on the back panel or to a video expansion card, and also to the connector on the back of the monitor. For proper connection of the video monitor, see the documentation for the monitor. Then the next process is to inspect all external monitor controls for any obvious damage or improper settings. For proper settings of the video monitor controls, see the documentation for the monitor. And then inspect the keyboard to ensure that no keys are sticking. If one or more keys are sticking, it may be necessary to replace the keyboard. Then 9, or the next step, inspect the exterior of the computer, including all controls and indicators and all user accessible data storage devices for any signs of physical damage. Does the inspection reveal any problems? If yes, proceed to the appropriate procedure in removing and replacing parts. Then if no, proceed to observing the boot routine. Okay, now let's talk about observing the boot routine. So after you have performed an external visual inspection, as described in the previous section, you should boot the system, and while the boot routine is running, observe the system for any indication of problems. So note that most of the steps in this procedure require observation of system functions and indications, some of which can occur simultaneously, and it may be necessary to reboot the system several times to complete all of these steps. To observe problems indication during the boot routine, perform the following steps. So first, if the system is off, turn on all peripherals and the computer. Then second, check the power supply fan. Does the fan run normally? And if yes, proceed to step 3. Then if no, troubleshoot the system power supply. Then third, watch the num lock, caps lock, and scroll lock indicators in the upper right corner of the keyboard. After all 3 indicators flash momentarily and the following pause approximately 30 seconds, the num lock indicator should light up and remain on unless the num lock option is set to off in the system setup program. These indicators flash on and off within approximately 10 seconds after the boot routine starts. Then if yes, proceed to step number 4. But if no, troubleshoot the system power supply again. If the troubleshooting procedure indicates that the system power supply is operational, then troubleshoot the memory. Memory could be one of the wrong or damage in the when you are having an inspection on your computer while booting. The next process is during the boot routine, observe the system for any of the following indications. So one of the indicators is the beep codes. A beep code is a series of beeps that indicates an error condition. Then the next one is system error messages. These messages can indicate problems or provide status information. And the last one is the diskette drive and hard disk drive access indicators. These indicators light up in response to data being transferred to or from the drives. If either of these indicators fails to light up during the boot routine, troubleshoot the diskette drive or hard disk drive subsystem as appropriate. Then next is to observe the monitor screen for the diagnostics menu. Now let's also talk about the internal visual inspection. So notice that before you proceed with the internal visual inspection described in this section, ensure that the user has saved all open files and exited all open applications programs if possible. So that's because if you turn off your computer directly, even you don't close any application that you have open or any files that you have open, it may be deleted or erased on your computer. So now let's talk about the internal visual inspection. So a simple visual inspection of a computer's interior hardware can often lead to the source of a problem, such as a loose expansion card, cable connector, or mounting screw. So to perform the internal visual inspection, perform the following steps. So first, turn off the system, including any attached peripherals, and disconnect all the AC power cables from electrical outlets. Then second, remove the computer's right side cover. Then third, verify that the chips, expansion cards, and SEC cartridge and heatsink assembly or assemblies are fully seated in their sockets or connectors. Then next is to ensure that the chips are fully seated in their sockets. Press firmly on the top of the or each chip. The next, verify that all jumpers are set correctly. Then next step is to check all cable connectors inside the computer to verify that they are firmly attached to their appropriate connectors. Then next step is to reinstall the computer cover. Then last one or the last step is to reconnect all the computer and any attached peripherals to their power sources and turn them on. So that should do the internal visual inspection. Thank you for listening and may God bless you. So if ever you have any questions, just contact me, your teacher Aljabrian, for queries, clarification, and for another explanation to make your or make this topic understandable to you. Thank you again and God bless.